Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the, well, I don't know how many times this makes me trying to record this. My name is Jayniro, a Honkai veteran, and today's special exclusive, about a week overdue at this point, is BURNICE herself. The funniest, flashiest, over-the-top, and hottest character, pun intended, coming to Zenless Zone Zero here in version 1.2. Today, I'll be showing you guys everything there is to know about BURNICE and what she does, how to build her, and who to play her with, along with a little more in-depth, hands-on look at her at the same time. To be noted first, this is the Creators Experience server, so take what you're seeing here with a little bit of a grain of salt. But before we start, if you guys enjoy these kinds of vids and want to see more, be sure to drop a sub on the channel. And with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into Miss Worldwide herself here, the one and only fireball that is BURNICE White. All right, so here we have BURNICE White. She is the newest character coming with version 1.2, the second half of version 1.2 here in ZZZ. She's a fire anomaly character. So what does that exactly mean? Well, before we dive into her kit, typically what this generally means is you're going to be wanting to run her alongside fire DPS, well, sometimes fire. You're going to be wanting to run her along mainly with anomaly units. Yes, that's the correct term. Similar to like how in Star Rail you run break focused characters alongside break teams, with the exception of Linksha because she's, kind of a jack of all trades in a sense. BURNICE is an entirely hot unit, unlike anything we've ever seen in the game. Of course, she's an anomaly character, so we know she specializes with the attribute anomaly. She's fire, so you're going to be doing a lot of burn attribute anomaly activations coming up. But she has a special mechanic unto herself as well, and that is her off-field damage that she's able to do. No other character can really do this in the game. Well, with the exception of like Lucy and Rena, but they're different. They're supports. BURNICE herself, she's a fire damage dealer. She actually focuses on dealing damage, unlike, those other two characters. Hers is a little bit more dramatic than what's presented with Rena and Lucy. So first and foremost, what we need to talk about how she actually does this is we need to talk about two aspects of her kit. It's her core passive and her EX skill. They pretty much go hand in hand with each other. Her core passive, as you guys can see, is denoted by this meter up here underneath her profile picture. As we see, this is her heat gauge. Now, when you have 50 of this meter, it actually enables her to go into the nitro fuel cocktail state. That's what it's called, yes. Which, when she hits an enemy, so we'll see here if I just hit this enemy with a specific attack, it lets her apply a scorch stack to the enemy, denoted by this flame on them. Now, this scorch stack is what allows her to deal off-field damage, and you can apply it through a various amount of different means. It's through her charge attack, either EX skill, chain attack, or ultimate. This applies the scorched effect on the enemies, which when triggered, of course, deals afterburn damage. Now, in order to actually get into this state, you need to build heat. Now, when you come onto the field initially with BURNICE, she automatically starts with max heat, making, you don't have to deal with ramp up time. But once you're out of this state, so if I just go ahead and get rid of all my heat, it then becomes an issue of how do I actually gain this heat? How do you actually gain heat so that you can send BURNICE into the nitro fuel cocktail state to then apply the scorched effect on enemies? The primary, well, pretty much the only way to actually do it is through spending energy, which is why her EX skill is so important and so tied to her kit. She technically has two enhanced skills. She has her normal one, which is that, and she also has double shot, where if you press it again, you can then do that. Now, spending this energy actually, as you saw, generates this heat meter up here, which can then be used through either her charge attack or through afterburn damage. You're probably thinking like, oh, why would I use the second one if the first one is much easier to deal with? Well, let me tell you this. First and foremost, the first skill costs 40 energy to use and drains 12.5 energy per second, while the double shot, it says it only requires 10, but I'm assuming that's on top of the 40 needed, so 50 energy, and drains 25 energy per second. So then you're thinking like, well, this double shot costs way more. Why would I end up using double shot? It also drains energy way faster as well. Double shot does nearly double damage, first and foremost. Second of all, it also recharges heat about 2 times faster, it seems, from what I've noticed. So you can get into max heat a lot faster through double shot versus her normal EX skill. On top of it, there are other additional parts of her kit that actually allow her to enter double shot by default rather than having to go through her normal skill. So for example, if I just attack here, we instantly just go into the normal one. But if I do charge attack here, I can follow this up with double shot by default. It's a lot faster. Very, very, very much faster. So what you guys will notice throughout playing BURNICE is that double shot will be her primary method of generating heat, since it can be activated in a multitude of ways. You can do it after a charge attack, as I've already shown. She also can do it after her QTE follow-up, aka, when the assist button comes down in the bottom right hand in the corner screen, which I'm currently covering, or after a chain attack as well. So those are the three main methods, which BURNICE will primarily be coming onto the field anyway through those methods, minus the charge attack. That's while she's already on field. So you're going to be noticing that you're going to be doing double shot a lot more. Now, after building at least 50 heat, she enters the Nitro Fuel cocktail state, where she can then, as I've already demonstrated, do charge attacks with the heat available, either EX skill, chain attack, or ultimate, and they apply scorch stacks on the enemy. She has a large amount of ways to actually activate the scorched effect on the enemy so that they can take afterburn damage. So these are the primary ways you're actually going to be using BURNICE. Now, I did say either EX skill, so if you do have more heat available, if you're already in the Nitro Fuel cocktail state and you want to just quickly apply the scorch effect on an enemy and just pop off field, that way BURNICE doesn't get hit by something, you can easily just do a single tap, boom, scorch is already going to be on the enemy. Now, the scorched effect stays on the enemy as long as she has heat, or until the enemy dies. So until she loses heat or the enemy dies, they will remain completely affected by it. Not as big of a deal as some other effects from other characters in the game. Now, you're probably thinking like, okay, why is this scorched effect so important for BURNICE? I get you said that it applies damage while off field, but how does it actually work? Let me bring in another character just to show it off a little bit really quick. Okay. So here we have Jayniro in the team. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this scorched effect really quick and bring Jayniro onto the field. Now, if I hit this enemy with any attack, you'll see I deal the damage that I dealt alongside that orange damage, which is the fire damage from the scorched effect. Every time you hit an enemy, every 1.5 seconds, second and a half, every hit of that triggers the scorched effect, dealing afterburn damage. This afterburn damage, if you guys notice as well underneath BURNICE's profile picture, is it reduces heat every time it triggers, but it's consistent and remains as long as BURNICE has heat available, as I've already said. Each instance of this afterburn damage uses up 8 heat, and as I've already said, it can be triggered every second and a half. So it actually lasts a very long time and works pretty nicely, because that afterburn damage, as you notice, has a pretty large amount of fire anomaly that it builds up. It's pretty freaking good. So that means you can just apply the scorch effect and stay off of BURNICE until she runs out of that heat. Then bring BURNICE back onto the field. Get back into heat through double shot, whatever means necessary, and go back to your main character, your main damage dealer throughout the rest of your team, and just continue to just go to town while BURNICE, of course, passively racks up that fire anomaly, that burn effect. And you can just go through completely and just dominate your enemies. So those are the two primary main things of BURNICE that I want to talk about. However, I do still want to talk about the rest of her kit. Her basic attacks aren't really used, I will say. So because of the fact, she is a off-field damage dealer, you're not going to really be using her on field. You're not really going to be using this much at all, unless you need to gain energy. But you generate energy passively over time. So it's not that big of a deal, in all honesty, considering how much time she spends off field as well. And with how easy it is to apply the scorched effect to enemies when she has heat available. So as for her, as I've already said, her basic attack not used, but the other part of her basic attack, as I've already said, is her charge attack. This charge attack is great. It can deal amazing damage. It's a good filler move if you need time between your teammates when they're off field and you just need to start prepping a little bit more and you don't have stacks on the enemy as well. It's a great way to actually get the scorch effect on the enemies as well. Not to mention, as well, I've already said that after doing it, you can instantly go into double shot. Just to say as well, the charge attack does not last that long. That is only when you hold it the entire time. You can release it as early as you want. Very good, very good. But while it does deal a decent amount of damage and can build a decent amount of energy, its primary use is going to be to expend heat and apply the Scorch effect, as I've already said, while also going directly into double shot to rebuild her heat. Now, if you guys were paying attention as well earlier, let me just go ahead and make this enemy movable. She does have another way where she can actually go straight into double shot, and that is through her defensive assist. So if I just take this attack right there, follow-up attack, double shot. And it's honestly really freaking fast. There's another way she can very easily apply the Scorch effect to enemies and also build up heat at the exact same time. It's another very good tool that she'll be utilizing very often, as we'll get into the team section a little later. The last part of her kit that I actually want to talk about is her ultimate. It's an amazing utility tool and will honestly make her the primary ultimate user for now, at least until we get, you know, the separated ultimate meters that they've talked about in the past through the live stream that not a live stream, but the special program that they did a while back. Not too long ago, it was like a month ago or so. But we know that separate ultimate meters will be coming, but for now, at the time being, Burnice will be the primary ultimate user in the team that she's going to be doing, and that is because of the fact that everything I've already mentioned of it being able to apply Scorch stacks, the massive amount of damage that it does, Scorch stacks, being able to apply the Scorch effect, the massive amount of damage it does, but on top of it, this ultimate, as seen in the trailer, and also if you played her in the story, not only does an insane amount of damage, it also sends her into the sky and activates the next teammate's QTE assist. So we just go ahead and use it right here. Boom. Assist comes in. Lots of off-field damage right there. You can just go to town, and Burnice stays pretty much safe since you swap in your next character. You don't need to worry about Burnice while you're dealing a crap ton of damage. Honestly, really freaking good. So primarily, she'll want to be in your teams because of this. You'll want to have her right before your main DPS in a setup, as it activates the next character in the swap. So swapping forward versus swapping backwards. You want to have them right before your main DPS, so you can swap into your main DPS off of that and just capitalize off of the massive amount of fire anomaly buildup, massive amount of fire damage that's happening, as well as how safe she is. And they're being stunned by that as well. So your DPS is going to be relatively safe if they're not a beefier target. And it's also because of this, there's going to be a larger importance, not just on that specific placing in the team, but also over how you're swapping between your teammates. A lot of people are pretty much used to just pressing spacebar if you're on keyboard to just swap forward between your teammates, right? But there's going to be a lot of swapping backwards using C. So if I just add in another character here really quick, we'll just add in Seth as number 3 for the time being. So if we just go into, how do I want to do this? We let them attack us. Go ahead and do that. The next, Seth comes in. And then, of course, based off of that, Jayniro can just go to town right after Seth. And that's how your typical rotation is going to end up working. This is primarily, honestly, going to be the main team that I'm expecting to see Burnice be used in. It can be the Jayniro Seth team. But because of how Burnice works, if you've already played Jayniro as Seth, as you probably should, regardless if you have his Mindscapes or not, because I believe Mindscape 2 is a huge quality of life for Seth, expect to be pressing that C key a lot in addition to how much you already press your space key. So order of swapping, direction swapping is going to be a lot more important with Burnice as opposed to how it was in the past, where you could just set all your characters in a straight line, not need to worry about it. You need to really pay attention to how you're ordering your characters so that you can swap into certain characters at certain times. You're sometimes going to be wanting to swap from Burnice to Jane, and other times you're going to want to be going backwards and swapping from Burnice to Seth. And you're already swapping from Seth to Jane. That's just given based off of how Seth's buffs work and what Jane needs and what Seth gives to Jane. One last little bit that I actually neglected to mention as well is her additional ability. Her additional ability activates whenever you have another anomaly character in the team, or if they're from the same faction. So what it actually does is whenever she does her charge attack, either of her EX specials, or when the afterbird effect is triggered on an enemy, that moves specific damage, whichever one triggered the additional ability, gains 65% more fire anomaly buildup. So actually having this activated on Burnice whenever you have her in the team is going to be very, very, very crucial, because if you don't, it's going to take a lot longer to actually build up fire stacks. All right, with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about her equipment really quick and what she actually wants. All right, so here we have Burnice, obviously. We're going to go ahead and take a quick look at Burnice's equipment here. Here are her base stats. As I've already said, you guys, well, you can't see part of it. The important stuff you need to see my head. You see we have 315 anomaly proficiency, very good. Anomaly mastery 153. You guys can already probably take a guess at what she wants. The complicated part is in regards to this stat right here, energy regen, and I'll talk about it in just a little bit. But as you can see, the primary stats she wants are attack, anomaly proficiency, energy regen. And just in case you guys didn't see already, we have her core passive here. That's her basic attack, dodge, assist, special attack, and chain attack. And if you're curious about what you should be upgrading, this is what it says. I personally would throw the ultimate up here in priority as well, alongside maybe the assist, just because it's so important. I would say, obviously this, I would honestly probably put, actually this kind of works. Yeah, core passive and skill are the most like needed, but just because of how Bernice functions, I would honestly throw these probably up there on the priority as well, but they're like secondary priority. This order is wonky. This one should be last in this, if I'm being honest. So you go skill, or core passive, skill, chain attack, assist, and then basic attack, and then dodge you don't really care about at all. All right, but here we have her equipment. Take a quick look at that. This is what I got equipped on her right now, but of course we're gonna talk about the W engines. So what W engines does Bernice want? Flame Shaker, Flamemaker Shaker, is her, of course, signature. It's her best in slot. The big part about Flamemaker Shaker is that it gives an increase to energy regen while she's off field. Very, very important, as we've already noted. Bernice really thrives off of her core passive, and in conjunction, because of how her core passive works, you need to have energy regen on her to a degree so that you can get her skills back faster. In addition, as we see as well here, it has a attack substat, which is very, very good for Bernice being an anomaly character. They don't thrive off of crit stats. They thrive off of attack and anomaly proficiency stacks. Well, stats, not stacks. So having an attack substat is honestly really, really good. So in addition to her having energy regen while she's off field, she also gets a damage increase after hitting her EX special or her assist attacks, which also I failed to denote during the earlier section, is her afterburn damage. The afterburn damage from the scorched effect, triggering afterburn damage when an enemy is hit by an alternate teammate on the team, triggers that afterburn effect, which counts as assist attack damage. Now, this damage bonus lasts for 6 seconds, but it can stack up to 10 times and can be triggered every 0.3 seconds. So it can max out at 35%. And repeatedly triggering this resets the duration of this 6 seconds, meaning as long as you have that scorched effect up, you should be having that maxed out pretty much. It's very, very easy, very, very quick. So Bernice can already get a large amount when she comes off field, but then when she's off field, it gets to be even better because these stacks double while she's off field to compensate for the fact that she's not able to trigger it as fast off field. So instead of a single afterburn gaining 1 stack, it triggers 2 stacks very, very fast. So she only needs 5 afterburn triggers to max it out. Honestly, pretty good, especially with how fast that trigger availability resets, 0.3 seconds. Very, very good. Now, the last part of her W engine is if her stacks are greater than 5, greater than or equal to 5, anomaly proficiency increases by 50 for 6 seconds. This is absolutely huge, because what this means is it reduces the anomaly proficiency requirement that Bernice needs for her core passive from her gear to 250 instead of 300, because her core passive, where did I write it down? Because her core passive states that every 10 anomaly proficiency increases the afterburn damage by 1% up to a maximum of 30%. And of course, as I've already stated, the damage from the afterburn effect is considered assist to attack damage. So meaning Bernice herself needs maximum 300 anomaly proficiency. And that's why, as we take a look here, my anomaly proficiency is on my Bernice right now is only at 315. This is kind of contradictory because you would think that, oh, well, you know, you want to be having your anomaly characters maxed out with as much anomaly proficiency as possible. Yes, that is very true. That is if they are like Jane, where they don't trigger a lot. They don't get a lot of damage from their just attacks in general. They get a lot from the anomaly triggers. Bernice actually has a lot of damage on her own, regardless of the anomaly triggers. It's actually very good, and it's part of the reason why as well you want to be building more attack than anomaly proficiency as soon as you meet that 300 anomaly proficiency requirement. And that goes into my ideal recommendations for drive discs as well, which we'll talk about after we finish up with these W engines. Now, as for alternative W engines, I would say that Sharpened Stinger is honestly her next best. You get an anomaly proficiency substat, which is very good, means you have less requirements you need from your substats. Honestly, really, really good. And even though this largely wants, you know, or largely benefits physical damage, it's still really, really good just for anomaly characters in general, because you get a lot of anomaly buildup rate from the rest of the passive. Now, this extra anomaly buildup rate does require 3 dashes, but it can be maxed out instantly with just an ultimate evasion or perfect dodge. Sorry. The next W engine I want to actually talk about, and the last S rank W engine for anomaly characters, is of course Grace's. It's Fusion Compiler. It has a pen ratio substat, which I feel like pen has been talked about not very much, in all honesty. You know, it was really good in the beta. It's not as good as crit nowadays, but the thing about pen ratio and pen that people just seem to overlook is that the more pen and pen ratio you have, the better it gets. So it's really bad when you have like next to none, but if you have a ton, it's actually really good. And that's why if you have Rena on your account, it becomes possible to actually run pen ratio on your characters. So like a pen ratio disc 5 and pen on your other substats, because then you get pen ratio transfer from Rena, which increases the pen ratio of the character that receives that pen ratio. Now, the passive though gives attack percent. It gives you 12% attack percent, which is very, very good. Yeah. Nothing to snuff at all. But in addition, it also gives you additional anomaly proficiency after using your special at all. All right, next W engine I want to talk about is Rainforest Gourmet. This, I would personally say, is her best A rank W engine option. It is an A rank, yes. Don't look down on A ranks though. They're actually pretty good, especially this one. You get an anomaly proficiency substat, so already very good, lessens the anomaly proficiency requirement that Bernice needs to meet. And as well, it has a stacking attack buff here for every 10 energy used up to 25%. Next, W engine, Electro Lip Gloss. Let's get it out of the way. It's a BP weapon. So if you don't buy BP, I'm sorry, but this is, I would say personally, the next best A rank option that she has available. It has an anomaly efficiency substat as well, so don't look down on it, as I've already said with Rainforest Gourmet. And the passive gives a 10% attack buff and a 15% damage increase. Honestly, pretty good. The only downside is that it needs constant attribute anomaly infliction. But that's all the W engines that I want to talk about. That's all the A ranks and S ranks. So let's go ahead and talk about the ideal drive disc you want to run with Bernice. Now, as you can see here, I have the 4-piece of Chaos Jazz. The 2-piece gives 30 anomaly proficiency, lessening the anomaly proficiency requirement that you need for Bernice. Very, very good. While the 4-piece, though, has fire and electric damage be increased by 15%. And the EX special and assist attacks, aka Afterburn, while off field, deal 20% more damage. So it's a combined increase in damage of 35%. Very, very, very good. Pretty much you must equip this on Bernice for her to be very good. Yeah, that's how I personally feel about it. This buff also lasts for 5 seconds when she comes back on field. So you can just do what you need with Bernice on field. It only takes like 5 seconds. Pop her off field, boom, and you have all the gains from that 4-piece staying the entire time as well. As for 2-piece options, I'm personally running here 2-piece Freedom Blues. It lessens the anomaly proficiency you need from your substats because you get an additional 30 anomaly proficiency. But if you don't want to do that, if you have, you know, pretty good anomaly proficiency from, you know, your 4-piece here and some other 2-piece options that you have, I would say the next best option you can be running is going to be Swing Jazz, because it increases the amount of energy she regenerates every second. Because this energy regen stat, for those that don't know, this energy regen stat is not what it seems. Most people think of energy regen as the amount of energy you just regenerate, period. However, they split up into this game into 2 different stats. You have energy regeneration, energy regen, and energy generation rate. So energy regen itself influences the amount of energy agents recover per second in combat. This is essentially passive energy regen because your agents as well, people don't understand that you have passive energy regen at all times. You gain a certain amount of energy every single second. So this, as I currently have, based off of, you know, the W engine that I have on Bernice currently, her signature, she has 1.44 ER. So every second she regenerates 1.44 energy. This is different from energy regeneration rate, and currently there's no ways to spec into energy regeneration rate in this game, but energy generation rate affects the amount of energy generated through ER, but also from when you hit enemies, because that is the primary method that people are going to be gaining energy from hitting enemies. So there's no way you spec into this. That's why I say energy regen, the ER set, Swing Jazz, it's like good, but if I wasn't running Freedom Blues, it would be my 3rd option, not my 2nd option. My 2nd option personally here is going to be Inferno Metal, the Inferno Metal set. The Inferno Metal set as well increases the fire damage from the equipping character by 10%. So you get a bonus fire damage bonus on your character if you have fire damage on your drive disc 5. As for any other sets, the last 2-piece set I would personally recommend would be the Hormone Pump set, because you get an attack bonus. You get 10% attack bonus from the 2-piece, which in addition by proxy just increases your overall damage, period. Those are the drive disc sets. But as for the individual stats, you know, disc 1, 2, and 3, they remain overall the same. But disc 4, 5, and 6 are where there's a little bit of contention. I want to start off with disc 6. Disc 6 is Anomaly Mastery. I would personally say Anomaly Mastery is best in slot here over Energy Regen, as for the reasons I've stated in the past that I just talked about for Energy Regen. Anomaly Mastery increases the rate at which you build up Attribute Anomaly. So very, very much highly preferred over ER. As for disc 5, we have fire damage bonus. Of course, the de facto, it'll increase her fire damage a crap ton. She's already gonna be saturated with attack bonus, so getting that fire damage bonus is separate from the attack damage bonus multiplier. They multiply rather than add. Very, very good. But if you can't get fire damage bonus, attack is going to be best slot. And lastly, we have disc 4. Disc 4, personally, if you are having trouble meeting your anomaly proficiency requirements, AP anomaly proficiency is going to be the ideal thing to run here. But if you're already meeting that 300 AP requirement, I would honestly say 1,000,000% use attack over anomaly proficiency, because of the fact that unlike other anomaly characters in the game, where pretty much all their damage is exclusively through attribute anomaly activations, BURNICE has a quite fair amount of just raw damage from the moves themselves, as opposed to the anomaly triggers. Like, BURNICE's function as a character is primarily building up attribute anomaly while also dealing her own damage. She's kind of a hybrid character, being able to deal damage while off field and also build up that attribute anomaly for disorder procs. She's a disorder character in a sense. This is why I would say once you meet that 300 anomaly proficiency, you want to run a attack percent disc 4 instead of anomaly proficiency. It's more overall damage as opposed to having your damage be in a single nuke. All right, let's go ahead and talk team comps for Jane Doe. Let's talk about team comps for BURNICE. As I've already discussed, BURNICE is a anomaly character that deals a lot of off-field damage, and the best in slot team that you're honestly going to want to be running with BURNICE, as I showed off earlier, is going to be Jane Doe and Seth. This team, I already showed off a bit of gameplay, how it works. It is very, very strong. Everybody gets their additional abilities triggered. BURNICE's comes from an additional anomaly character in the team. Jane Doe's, I don't remember what the other one was, but from the fact that they're in the same faction means they both get their additional abilities triggered, and everybody is happy in this team. Jane Doe is by far the best team for disorder trigger, the best teammate for disorder triggers, and on top of it, when she triggers assaults, they can crit. Big PP damage. You get assault crits in addition to disorder crits, and it's very, very good. Seth is the de facto, of course, teammate for Jane Doe, so in this team it'll be just great overall. All right, the next teammate I want to discuss is Soldier 11. Soldier 11 is honestly really, really good. People kind of overlook her just because of the fact that she's a standard S rank unit. I personally think she's the best standard character in this game right now, even better than Rina and Lycon. I'm not gonna lie, I really do. She has a large amount of fire, like raw fire DPS, and on top of it, because of how often she attacks, how easy it is to, you know, get dodge attacks as well. She's like a pseudo Jane and a pseudo anomaly character as well, because of how fast she can actually trigger burn reactions. She can actually trigger burn attribute anomalies. Honestly, pretty freaking good. Now, as for the next character, I would personally recommend in a team with Grace, and with BURNICE is going to be Grace. She's an on-field electric anomaly DPS, so she pairs really well with BURNICE by proxy. She has very fast shock triggers. However, she will more than likely be replaced by Yanagi, because Yanagi is a electric shock. She's an electric anomaly DPS character as well, more than likely. You know, anomalies are just DPS, so that's why I just say electric anomaly DPS. She'll more than likely power keep Grace, but seeing as what Grace can do right now with BURNICE, with her ability to just trigger shock super fast, honestly pretty freaking good. And in this sort of team as well, I'd probably run Rina because of the pen ratio transfer to Grace that would end up happening. But even then, I would still honestly run just Seth in this team, because even though you don't have Jane in the team, they're not from the same faction, Seth's additional ability also triggers from being the same attribute. And guess what? Grace and Seth are the same attribute. So if you don't have Jane Doe, but you have Grace, here's another character you can use, and then Yanagi will also more than likely be power creeping. Grace is what it is, but yeah, they're good. So the final verdict, should you pull BURNICE White? Personally, I am, honestly, but assuming you fraud that amount for Jane Doe, like 95% of the player base did while overlooking Qingyi, then yeah, I would say so. Yes, they're like a match made in heaven in a sense, and I would probably say that Yanagi will be the same thing, considering that the new Chaos Jazz set says electric damage in addition to fire damage. Yanagi will probably also be able to make use of it. I mean, Grace can already make use of it as well, but she doesn't have as much off-field application stuff like maybe Yanagi will have. We don't know yet. And then the last thing is, you know, I would say if you have Grace or Soldier currently and you want to further and bolster your teams, then yeah, honestly, yes. Bernice has a very large amount of fire damage, I've already said, and it can very much benefit soldiers, so you can trigger fire anomaly a lot faster in a soldier team. In addition, Grace is kind of like an electric replacement of Jane Doe currently, and will more than likely be power cut by Yanagi. So if you have either of them, and you want to further boost those teams, then yes. Otherwise, do I think you should pull Bernice? If you don't like her as a character, and you don't meet any of those 3 other points that I listed, probably not, in complete honesty. But, you know, I'm pulling for her. I'm going to get her. The only question is, how deep am I going to go? Because of the fact that Vita and Kiana Divine Key are coming this Thursday, whereas Bernice is coming on Wednesday. With that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate it if you guys would drop a like on the video, a sub to the channel, and a comment down below if you guys enjoyed this sort of like hands-on style video. I know it's late, like by a week, but procrastination, ADHD, paralysis, all this stuff. I've been having trouble recording this, but I'm finally happy that I finally managed to do it. So those 2 videos are being worked on next though, like immediately. That being said, love you guys. Be kind of happy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Jane, bye-bye. Holy